Let's see, what am I missing here? Oh yeah. Hat, check. Sunglasses, check. Pepsi, check. Notes, check. Sources, check. And thick skin, check. Let's go. Welcome back to Going Unbloated, everybody, and all we do here is college football. So if you're a college football fan, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. And as always, feel free to send gear to represent you and your team. Look around, that's what my background is made of. So if you want to be a permanent part of Going Unbloated and my background, send gear to represent yourself and your team to P.O. Box 360, Liberty, South Carolina 29657. Alright, so I'm in the car line waiting to pick up my kids, so you already know what time it is. It is time for another car video. Some of them are good, some of them not so good, so I'll let you be the judge of this one to determine if this is a good one or a not so good one. And in this car video, I want to talk about the 4 playoff games. I'm going to call them playoff games. I know technically that they're not playoff games, but I think these 4 games will have an effect on the playoffs. These 4 games will either knock somebody out or raise somebody up. They will have an effect. There's 4 big games. 3 of them are top 15 matchups, and the other one is a very important game for the Pac-12 in general. But the most important game of the day, in my opinion, is going to be number 10 Penn State at number 5 Michigan. Penn State's 5-0, Michigan 6-0. I think this is going to be a great game. Now, Penn State is averaging 34.4 points per game, which is 37th. Michigan is averaging 43 points per game, which is 7th. Penn State's allowing 14.8 points per game, which is 14th. And Michigan's allowing 11.3 points per game, which is 5th. Going Unbloated. This is a no-brainer. You should pick Michigan, right? Well, no, you shouldn't, because Michigan really hasn't been tested. Penn State has already gone into hostile road environments, on the road to Purdue, and on the road to Auburn, and absolutely hushed the crowd. Now, it did take some guts, and it wasn't a blowout win on the road to Purdue, but they still got the win. They went into Auburn, Jordan-Hare, which is a tough place to win. Ask LSU. They got down by 17 and had to actually come back to win that game. But Penn State, man, they absolutely did what they were supposed to do, and they demolished Auburn. Now, I am not comparing Michigan to Purdue or Auburn. Not at all. Much better team than either of those two teams. But I'm just saying Penn State has already gone on the road and handled their business. And even though Michigan is a better team, I still think Penn State is the better team. So I think Penn State will go on the road and beat Michigan. I think the road environment will play a factor to some degree, but Penn State will be able to take that crowd out of the game. Even though the big house holds over 100,000, just the way it's constructed, the crowd isn't on top of you, and it doesn't trap as much noise as it should. So it's not as loud as it should. Now, 100,000 people, it's still going to be loud. But compare it to like Death Valley and LSU, Texas A&M, Alabama, Clemson, all those other stadiums that are either right around 100,000 or below 100,000, it's not as loud. I think Penn State goes in, makes a statement, and then really, as long as they take care of business with all the other teams, all they have to do is beat Ohio State at home. And I think they have a good shot of doing that. This is a statement game for Penn State, and I think they make that statement, and people will start talking about Penn State possibly making the playoffs. This will increase their chances exponentially. Alright, the second most important game. I have number 3 Alabama at number 6 Tennessee. Alabama 6-0, Tennessee is 5-0. Alabama is averaging 44.3 points per game, which is 5th. Tennessee is averaging 46.8 points per game, which is 2nd. They have a great offense. Both of these teams have a good defense, though. Alabama allows 12.5 points per game, which is 6th. And Tennessee allows 17.8 points per game, which is 21st. I like Tennessee. I think this is a close game. But Alabama's been there, done that. I think this is it's too early for Tennessee. I think this stage is too big. It's a close game, but Alabama gets the job done. And of course, people start saying, yep, it looks like Alabama's going to make the playoffs again. Now, would it totally shock me if Tennessee won this game? Absolutely not. I actually think this is a coin flip game, but I'm going to give the experience factor to Alabama, and that's what I think gives them the edge. So I think the Tide rolls into Knoxville and comes out with a scratching and clawing win over Tennessee. It's going to be a tough game. Alright, the third most important game. I think it's going to be number 8 Oklahoma State at number 13 TCU. Both of these two teams are 5-0. Oklahoma State's averaging 46.4 points per game, which is 3rd. and TCU's averaging 46.4 points per game, which is 4th. Oklahoma State's allowing 24.8 points per game, which is 57th, and TCU is allowing 23.8 points per game, which is 52nd. That was an impressive win for TCU over Kansas on the road, but Oklahoma State has really caught my eye. I thought their defense would take a bigger step back than what it has. Don't get me wrong, they have taken that step back, but not as big as what I thought it was going to be. And the offense has come out of nowhere. I didn't think the offense would be this good. And Oklahoma State has played some good teams. So I think Oklahoma State goes on the road and they actually beat TCU. I think this is a big-time win for Oklahoma State. And maybe people will start talking about Oklahoma State and the Big 12 making a playoff appearance this year. And it's not going to be Oklahoma or Texas. It's going to be Oklahoma State. Now, if that flips around and TCU wins, then they'll be talking about TCU. But I think it's going to be Oklahoma State that wins this football game. So they will have to bear the Big 12 banner. And it's probably going to be a rematch between Oklahoma State and TCU in the Big 12 championship. So they might have to beat TCU twice to get into the playoffs. But for this game, I think Oklahoma State gets the job done and gets a big road win over TCU. Finally, the fourth most important game, and this is my last game, it's going to be number 7, USC at number 20, Utah. USC is 6-0, Utah is 4-2. USC is 40.2 points per game, which is 16th, and Utah is scoring 40.3 points per game, which is 15th. USC is allowing 18.7 points per game, which is 25th, and Utah is allowing 19 points per game, which is 29th. The defensive stats, that's what shocked me. I didn't realize USC had as good of a defense as they do, and their stats are even better than Utah. This is a very, very important game for the Pac-12. I mean, you still have UCLA out there who's undefeated, but USC is your big-time chance. They are your flag bearer as far as getting the Pac-12 into the playoffs. So this is a big game. USC needs to go on the road and handle their business and beat Utah, but I don't think that they do. We saw them struggle on the road to Oregon State, and I don't think Oregon State is as good of a team as Utah. And I think the road environment at Utah is going to be even greater than the road environment at Oregon State. So, unfortunately, I really wanted to pick USC. I really did, because I want the Pac-12 to make the playoffs again. I'm telling you, the playoffs need the Pac-12 to represent. It seems like it's missing something. The Pac-12's been irrelevant. So, I begrudgingly picked Utah to win this game. I just think it being a road environment, and USC struggled on the road to Oregon State. I think they struggle a little bit against Utah, and I think it's enough for the Utah Utes to pick up a big-time win. The problem is, if Utah does win the Pac-12, and a lot of people thought that Utah was the best team in the Pac-12 preseason, if they do win the Pac-12, then the Pac-12's not making the playoffs again. So the Pac-12 actually needs USC to win this football game, but I don't think that's what happens. I think Utah beats USC. Now, a one-loss USC Pac-12 champ, they can still get into the playoffs. But this would be a massive, massive win for the Pac-12 if USC can go on the road and beat Utah, and if UCLA can go on the road and beat Oregon later on in the season. An undefeated UCLA versus an undefeated USC, that is a dream come true for the Pac-12. Even the rematch, even if the one-loss team comes back and wins the Pac-12 championship, they still have an excellent shot of getting into the playoffs because they beat the team that beat them in the regular season. So the Pac-12 dream scenario is an undefeated UCLA versus an undefeated USC in that last game of the season. Well, I think it's the second last game of the season, but that's a dream scenario. That's what the Pac-12 wants, and that's what the Pac-12 needs, but I don't think they're going to get it. I think USC goes on the road and loses to Utah. And I'm telling you, I hope that I'm wrong, but I just have this feeling. Alright, y'all let me know in the comments section, who do you have winning the Penn State-Michigan game? Who do you have winning the Alabama-Tennessee game? Who do you have winning the Oklahoma State-TCU game? And who do you have winning the USC-Utah game? And out of all the teams in all of these matchups, which of these teams do you think make the playoff? That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.